for us, and we've got two really important and very exciting things that we want to cover today. So the first is going to be the launch of our very first One NHS Finance annual report, where we celebrate the successes of all of the fabulous communities, our programmes, everything that we've achieved over the last 12 months, which has undoubtedly been a really challenging time for all of the NHS and the staff within it. So it's a brilliant publication, and we've got a little video to share with you that talks a little bit more about that. And then secondly, I'm delighted to be joined today by each of the One NHS Finance programme chairs, who's going to be updating you all on the progress since the programmes were launched back in September 2021 now. So they'll tell you a little bit about what they've been doing, what's been happening in each of the programmes, what's coming up next, and importantly, how you can get involved if you're not already. So just to let everybody know, we are recording the event today, and we're going to make it available on our One NHS Finance YouTube channel after today. So if you know colleagues who've not been able to get here today and they're keen to watch, please do let them know about it. Or if you want to go and have another rewatch of it yourselves, please do, because we're going to cover some great stuff today. Before I move on to the report itself, following each of the chairs' updates, there's going to be opportunity for questions. So please feel free to either pop your question in the chat function, or you can raise your hand and Becky will bring you in after each of them have done a bit of an update. I think we've already received some questions in advance as well, so we'll pick those up as part of the session. Okay, so moving on to the annual report. So you may well have already seen this. We actually put it out in May time, but if you haven't, please do take a look. So I feel really privileged today to launch this, because if we look back to when we launched the strategy back in September 2021, it was at the Value Makers Conference. It's quite unbelievable how much progress has actually been made. Despite everything else that's been going on, there's been some amazing achievements. So this document here, it pulls it all together. It lets you know everything that's been happening under each of those programmes, but it's also brilliant to see how this programme has grown following your comments and feedback. So I think that's really important, because when we did all of this new work, it was based on what you told us, the comments, the ideas, the feedback. So to see how that started to crystallise is absolutely fabulous. So the report as well covers not only an update from the programme, but it does give us the opportunity to celebrate some of the successes of our brilliant communities as well. It does shine a really well-deserved spotlight. So we highlight in there all of the winners from the Value Makers Conference last year, the brilliant things that everybody has done there. And the last thing in there, which I can't not mention, is it showcases how many people have been, around organisations have been accredited. And that is unbelievable to see so many organisations that, again, during this busy year, have taken time to get on and do those accreditations. So it's a brilliant document. Please do go and have a look at it. Share it amongst your networks, share it amongst your colleagues. Let's get as many people involved in the programme as possible. So if we just move on to the next slide, in the spirit of finance, we're doing a little video that shows all of that report in numbers. And it just shows, probably better than I can explain, how we've gone from strength to strength. So play, Becky. what the video shows, and just to emphasise this, we're still moving on those numbers. So I think it said 3005 on the value makers. We've actually got more than that now. We're still moving on and still recruiting more and more people that are getting involved in the network. So a huge thank you to everybody, because it's, you know, it just shown the success that we've had. So right, without further ado, I can see Mr. Worthington waiting in the wings there. So I'm going to hand over to him, who's going to give us an update on all things future focused finance. Simon.
Thanks, Suzanne. That's great. Really, really good. So, have we got the slides up, Becky? Fantastic. Yeah. So I'm Simon. I'm the finance director here at Leeds Teaching Hospitals, and also I support the Future Focused Finance part of One NHS Finance. So it's great to be here today at this giving this annual report and briefing. It's really, as Suzanne's already commented, made a load of progress. So in typical fashion, I've got some slides. So we move to the first one. Yeah, if that's all right, Becky. Yeah. And I'm going to start by addressing a couple of points that aren't actually on the slides, because what just occurred to me, I was just thinking about what I was going to say, was we are represented in these slides lots of things that we can count, you know, sort of from wherever we are. You know, the national team are counting things, and it's really, really good. But in terms of future focused finance, the really biggest achievements on these slides, and we don't know about them, because it's the achievements that are made out in the community with all the value makers working together, supporting each other. And I just wanted to reflect a little bit on what value making is all about. So that idea of signing up to be positive, you know, putting your hand up and saying, I am here to help. I want to do some supportive things with colleagues. So important. That principle of many hands make light work. So if every one of our 3,000 value makers does one thing, you know, to help improve every year, that's a huge improvement. And all the time encouraging people and talking to people, you know, actually speaking rather than just sending emails. If we encourage our colleagues to join in, the community will grow and grow, and we'll feel even more supported than we do at the moment. Yeah. So really do want to reflect that whilst there's some fantastic stuff on these slides, the great work that's been done by Future Focused Finance and the value makers is what's happening out in the network and in your individual places and finance communities, where you're all supporting each other to do what needs to be done so that we can deliver that great patient care and get that value for money. So just wanted to say that. But in terms of some more sort of things that we can sort of count and say directly about, we've done absolutely loads of things. So just on supporting our staff, we've had 13 online events looking at resilience, adapting to change, emotional well-being, self-care, hybrid working, all the things that, you know, really affecting staff at the moment. We're trying to support. Got hybrid working support pack. And we've run a number of events to support CCG colleagues as they move into the ICBs, which just recognise what a great big transformation that is, and big change. Huge work done by AK in demystifying NHS finance. And again, I am a finance director, you know, so I can work numbers out in my head. So honest. So if we look at that, 2,000 bookings in 10 online courses for demystifying finance. So I think that's an average of 200 people per course. And these are, you know, clinicians and managers. Yeah. So great work there, and just showing how much interest there is out in the wider healthcare community and how they can contribute to the sort of value for money and finance agenda. We've done a huge amount on making the NHS Finance a great place to work. And just look at that, with the 94 Value Maker Award nominations last time round. So that's 94 colleagues that their network put forward is worthy of an award. I'm sure they're all worthy of an award. We didn't have 94 to give out, so there had to be a winner. Yeah. And the thank you campaign carries on. One of the best ways of celebrating success, and just say thank you to your colleagues for the work that they do, and really appreciate what they do. And you can write that thank you up and send it in. And again, we can celebrate that success. You might get a bit of a prize. A new thing just recently launched is our Promoting NHS Finance Careers website, which is absolutely fantastic. When you go in, it loads of resources. I was just reflecting the other day, if that had been available when I was looking for a job in 1988, I would have been much more confident of knowing what I was getting into and much more excited as I started my first job in the NHS. So please do have a look at that. Still a little bit of work to do on it and making it absolutely seamless in terms of getting to the actual jobs. A really fantastic resource, and really help us get good people into the profession. Next slide, please. So how can you get involved? Well, you know, there are loads of networks that you can join, all of which have their own benefits, but they're all colleagues supporting each other and doing great work. So as we said, 3,000 value makers, nearly 800 finance and clinical educators. We've got a growing army of enthusiastic health and wellbeing champions, which is really important. Diversity inclusion ambassadors, and there's lots of, now we all know what Teams is, which I had no idea what it was 2 years ago, but I do now. Loads of Microsoft Teams groups that you can get involved in. Please encourage to get your team to get accreditation. It's really, really positive. As your finance director signed the declaration, if they haven't, don't sit and wonder why. Go and speak to them. Ask them about it. You know, encourage them to sign and support, sign up and support the staff. Please do celebrate success as much as you can. And again, that thank you to colleagues, so important. And there's lots of events and programs you can get booked in on. And just go to the Future Focus Finance part of the website to find out even more. Okay, and then next slide, please. Coming soon. So we're in the run up now to the next Value Maker Conference, which I'm sure is going to be even more fantastic than the last one, which will be very difficult, but I'm sure we can make that. So I look forward to that on the 15th of November. And remember, put your colleagues forward for recognition if they've done good work, which I'm absolutely certain that they have, for those awards. Yeah, we're doing lots of work on the NHS staff survey. So I encourage, if your department is not separately identified in the staff survey, speak to your finance director and get them to split you out so that you can see how you're feeling. We are producing a support pack for all-round staff survey and all-round staff engagement and how to encourage colleagues to feel part of the team. And a key measure for us is that, you know, staff are feeling really engaged and positively supported, and colleagues, and we'll be able to see how we're doing because we now can have visibility of quite a lot of the finance staff survey nationally, but really good if everybody split themselves out so that we can see every organisation. So please do that. Loads of monthly health and wellbeing webinars coming up, and lots more resources to support finance and clinical educators. And if you're a value maker and you work in financial management or anywhere else that you're talking with clinicians regularly, you're bound to be doing a lot of finance and clinical educating. So, you know, please do join up to that network as well, because there's lots of specific resources that come out to support that. Anyway, thanks to everybody for their engagement with the Future Focus Finance and support for One NHS Finance. And it's been a really great year, but let's make the coming year even better. Okay, thanks a lot, Suzanne.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Simon. I think we're going to hand straight over to Jenny.
Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks, Simon. So hello, my name's Jenny Earhart. I'm the Group Chief Finance Officer for MFT, Manchester Foundation Trust, and I'm the Chair of the Finance Innovation Forum. So if we could move on to the next slide, Becky. The things we've done, and just thinking about how I you know, deliver this and how I say it. Some of this, I'm just really amazed at the progress we've made in this past 8 months or so. So we've been, it says 6 months there, but it is 8, honest. We've peer reviewed and published 34 finance innovations in 2 cohorts. The third cohort is currently being peer reviewed, and the 4th cohort will open on the 1st of August. So, you know, really positive that we've had that many innovations come through, and that we've had an innovation from every region, you know, at least one from every region. You can see it's not entirely even. So in the kind of how do you get involved, if you're in one of those slightly less well represented regions, then you know, putting forward something good that you're doing, you know, please get involved. The Finance Innovation Showcase. So on the 8th of July, we will be in an online event. We'll showcase 10 of those peer-reviewed innovations, and we've got some really interesting speakers to just kind of help us with, well, what is innovation at all, kind of thing, you know, and try and just get our sort of creative juices going, if you like. So, you know, please, again, if you've got that date in your diary, brilliant. If you haven't, then, you know, have a look and see if you can get there. The software skills for finance staff. So one of the things that came through the big conversation that we had was that we know that lots of people have really good software skills, but that sometimes they're, you know, within one bit of an organisation and not so well shared. So we've launched this software skills for finance staff, and we've got 107 delegates, as you can see there, came to the launch event, and we have peers, if you like, doing the training. So it's people who are like our finance teams, because they're in our finance teams and helping other colleagues to develop and so on. And, you know, personally, I know that's how I best learned how to use Excel, was because, you know, I sat next to someone who was great at using Excel. So it's trying to do that on a more industrial scale, if you will, because of the power of teams, as Simon says. So there's also a permanent online forum then of those 4 software pieces of software, and we hope that community of practice kind of exists beyond the series and obviously then grows with each new cohort. Another thing that we've picked up and really run with is the automation project around provider finance returns. So they first met at the end of March, and they already have a simple kind of working concept. And what we're aiming to do is automate the input into provider finance returns and give everybody, you know, the time back that somebody in all of our teams will be sitting in providers, will be sitting, you know, filling in those forms. So we've got a current testing at the minute, sort of local testing in a few organisations. We're anticipating the national test next month, and then, you know, aiming to roll out fairly quickly thereafter, and, you know, and to try and make sure that we do allow people to have some of that time back. It's a very straightforward way of you know, it's a very straightforward thing. It's not, you don't need lots of technical skills to implement it. And finally, in terms of what have we done, we've published done an Art of the Possible publication. So just trying to explore emerging technologies and how could they be applied to NHS finance in the future, and what could that look like? So trying to do that sort of horizon scanning, if you like. So in terms of how you get involved, if we could move on to the next slide. One of the things that we were asked whilst we've been in operation, I suppose, is it's all right asking for innovations, but can we ask about problems? So can you have a repository of problems? And so we are now asking people to say, well, what are your problems? Because then what we're aiming to do is link up people who've solved that. Because the word innovation, it's the right word to use, but I do recognise that it might be a bit of a blocker sometimes, because, you know, I'm just doing what I normally do in my day job, and I might not think it's very innovative, and therefore I don't put it forward as an innovation. But actually, to the organisation down the road, I might be doing something really innovative. So because they've not you know, managed to overcome that problem. So what we're aiming to do with sharing the problems and ideas in particular is, it's not necessary for you to have worked up the answer, but please share with us what you're working on, whether it's you've just got the problem, whether you've got some idea to start solving it, or whether you've actually got an innovation that you can, you know, really describe and that you have solved it and therefore can share with others. So please, you know, the website now is set up with these kind of 3 buttons, if you will, on the right of the middle of that slide, so that you know, you can go and register all of those. And please, even if you see oh well, somebody else has already done a day one reporting innovation. Actually, part of what we're trying to do is understand the scale and the duplication. So so if you see somebody's put a problem forward and you think, well, it's the same problem as mine, that's all right. Somebody else has already said it. If you tell us as well, then we can understand the scale of that problem, and therefore we can focus in the right place that's going to have the best impact, really, and the widest impact across the NHS Finance. So share your problems, ideas with us. Become a peer reviewer. Become a peer reviewer for the innovations, because I think these are really interesting things to review. There's some really good stuff in there, and sort of we've set it up on purpose not to be a big burden. So I don't think it's please don't think that we're going to be asking you every week to review something else. I think we're trying to do it so that it fits in. And then, obviously submit innovations. As I say, we've got another software skills training series towards the end of the calendar year. And then the automation, we believe that will come out, as I say, the first of those. But we're also looking to, once we've done that automation project, how can we, expand that really, and how do we put sort of link those communities of practice? So somewhere in your patch, somebody will be doing automation, and how do we just make sure that those people are linked together, and that we try and share those innovations around automation more widely as well. So what's coming next? If we move on, please, Becky. Thank you. There's a lot of bullet points on here, so I'm not going to read them all, because you can probably read much quicker than I can. As I said, we've got more cohorts around the innovation programme. We've got another software skills for finance staff series at the end of the year, and the rolling out the PFR automation project. And what that then means for other national returns, hopefully. And really, we are now looking to how can we try and scale that automation project tool, and the capabilities as a service to NHS Finance as a whole. So, we'll have to come back with more detail on what that means, but we're trying to extend that automation really. And it's all about giving time back for for our finance teams to add value to our clinical teams, and ultimately to our patients. We're working on data sharing, and can we sort of have a work up and share a data sharing template, data sharing agreement template, because we know that that's a problem for how we share data across, say, an ICS. And how could we, is there a way that we can do that once nationally, and through the innovation forum, rather than everybody trying to do it more locally. There's a whole lot going on there, trying to pull together all those problems and ideas that we and the innovations that come through the submissions, and trying to really identify where we can add value in developing new innovations, sort of from a central perspective, when we see that there's a pattern of problem, if you like, or somebody's got an idea but needs support to develop that, trying to just work out how we do that just as we speak now. But just as Simon finished, a massive thank you, really. Thank you to everyone that's been involved, submitted innovation so far. Thank you to you all for being on the call just now, and thank you to the One NHS Finance team, because without the folk in the background doing lots of the work, we wouldn't have got so far so quickly. But I'm really proud that we have. So thank you, Suzanne. I'll come back to you.
That's brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Jenny. And last but by no means least, our Dev.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Yes, not least. Thank you very much. Great to follow on from Simon and from Jenny, and probably just pick up Jenny's last few words there about being extremely proud of what's been delivered so far. I think you see that through everything in there. And the one thing I would say about this whole One NHS Finance is it has been created on the basis of feedback from us as a finance community. So this is our program. This is what we're all about. So this is something that's really important. And in these 3 streams, there are some common themes. And you heard it from Simon when he talked about equality and diversity and inclusion ambassadors, and you heard it through Jenny as well, and you've heard it, you're going to hear it here as well, about these common themes coming across, about making sure we hear from yourselves, we get people involved, and we support the inclusion agenda. So some really common themes coming through. In terms of the National Finance Academy, I should say I'm Hardip, by the way, in case anyone doesn't know, but there's a definition there about this one-stop shop and inclusive and comprehensive training. So I'm going to try to emphasize what we actually mean by those words, and are we actually doing that in practice. So let's delve into what this means in terms of one-stop shop and comprehensive. So if we go to the next slide, please, you can see some of the things that we've delivered during the year. And to kick off with, there's been a suite of programs which covers all the different bandings within finance. So I'm hoping that this is something for everyone, and we're trying to be really inclusive in our approach, but also comprehensive in what we offer. And to that extent, we also have refined and modified the curriculum to make sure we're picking up all roles in finance as well. The really positive aspect around these suite of programs, and you never know when you launch it, is how well they'll be received. But I have to say, all of the programs have been oversubscribed. So we're taking the learning way that the development is still well and truly kicking for people. So we want to see more development, more opportunities. So that's something that we're working on. But what I would say is, please do get yourselves onto any of these development programs. And you can see they do range all the way through a person's career. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we nurture those careers, and we take away some of those visible and non-visible barriers that people might see. And to do that, I just wanted to call out the fact that we are having a new national steering group led by Jeff Buggle regarding equality, diversity and inclusion. So this builds on the plan that we launched back in November. It's a really strong plan, really well received. But what we want to do now is really get more engagement and make sure that we have consistency across the country on this. So really important that we stay engaged on that agenda as well. You'll also notice in there that we've got the sponsorship program, and that again is really popular, and we're doing training for people who are joining as sponsors to make sure that they know what that entails. And if you are a sponsor and you are sponsoring somebody, thank you very much for doing that. What I would say is what you do have is a strong pair of shoes, because sponsorship is about breaking down those doors for people to say, look, I've got somebody, they're really good, let's talk about the opportunities for them. So hopefully, if you're one of those people who isn't always forthcoming in saying, me, can I go for this role? Am I ready? Get yourself a sponsor. They will help put you forward. They will really be your champion and help you in terms of your career as well. So sponsorship program, really positive initiative, working really well over the last year. And probably finally on this side is the creation of the development of the talent pool, which we relaunched a few months ago as well. And again, they're positively received with 24 applications. So we're going to come back onto talent and how we're managing that. But if we move on to the next slide, then, what we can see here is how we get involved. And I've talked about the development programs, and Simon mentioned about the inclusion and diversity ambassadors. So, really get involved on that. Get yourselves either to be a sponsee or sponsor for your region and area. And we are talking to each of the regions about what does it mean to be part of a finance academy, and what's the expectations for regions in terms of their roles. And what we are looking for is a level of engagement, a level of desire to have things like sponsors and sponsees in place, and all of the uptake of development programs. So we want to see greater uptake across all the regions in these areas. We also have lots of free events and workshops, as you would expect. But what we are trying to do is have a more standard, general, consistent offering, so you know where to look, where to find things. So if you look on the website, Finance Academy, you'll see much more information on where these opportunities, these events and workshops are. And there's a lot more coming, as we will see in the next slide. So coming soon, we've got the sponsorship summit. Again, that's about helping those who are going onto the sponsorship program and how we can support people in the development. Also, we've got the programs around people who are joining the sort of directors of finance or CFO community as their first board role to help that transition. And that's really important, again, based on feedback from people who are new to those roles about what they need as they start. We're continuing to develop the curriculum, and we'll be putting that as an online version as well. And then this talent management strategy and framework. This is, to me, is going to be really important. One of the biggest things we're going to be working on about how do we support that talent management going forward. And this is going to be really, really comprehensive, and it'll reach down into ICSs all the way through to regions and then a national approach to understand how do we coordinate and support succession planning. How do you really ensure that you don't need to rely on that phone call or from certain recruitment agencies or for certain people being always on the shortlist? How do we get a wider pool, and how do we become more inclusive in our management of talent? So that's going to be something fundamental to the National Finance Academy. And then probably the final bit is something I'm really excited about is this bit when I started off about saying how are we being really inclusive around all opportunities. So everything we've just talked about is about nurturing your career, but there's also this bit about how do we get more people coming into finance. And one of the things we're keen to do is have a wider net that we throw out to people. And so we're piloting a scheme for, it's going to be called Insight and Experience Placement, but for people from disadvantaged backgrounds. So those areas which are socially and economically deprived, people who are left school, and we're going to be working with local charities to help develop this program, similar to the programs you would have heard where you have scholarships on offer and provide training in a finance environment, in a safe environment, with all the support around them to really showcase what finance careers look like in the NHS. So hopefully that gives you a flavour of something for everyone, the one-stop shop piece. The bit about inclusive and comprehensive, I think, has come across in everything that we're doing. What I wanted to really leave you with is this has been a really exciting program for all three areas. We've done a lot to get to this point. It's recognised not just in finance, but outside of finance, but the great work that's been going on. But what we want to also do is continue that discussion with yourselves and hear about what is it that matters to you. Is this striking the right chord with you? Are there things that you're thinking and saying, well, actually, I didn't put this in the survey, I wanted something else? Or is this really hitting home with you in terms of those opportunities? And whilst this is all great, and we're talking really positively about all of these achievements, we do recognise that there's more to be done. We recognise that there's more characteristics that we need to be measuring and developing and bringing into the front. We know that we're not consistent in all the regions, but we need to be working with everyone on this. And we're really keen to hear feedback from yourselves about how we can now take the next step in our development as well for the National Finance Academy and broadly across One NHS Finance. But that doesn't really do justice to the amazing efforts from everyone who's been working on these programs, and also everyone who's participated in the various programs who have graduated and are about to graduate. It's been a tremendous effort, and we've come a long way in the last 12 months. And personal thank you to everyone who's fed back into this and been engaged on this. But really keen to hear your views and feedback. Thank you, Suzanne.
And thank you to all of our 3 programme chairs. I mean, it is just amazing, isn't it? You know, the huge progress that's been made across all 3 of the themes. So echoing thanks again to everybody. So it's now opportunity for you to put any questions forward to any of the members of the 3 programmes. And just picking up on Hardev's last comment there, if there's anything that you want to feed back, and it doesn't have to be a question, it could just be a comment or something that you think we could do more work on, or some improvements that could be made across any of the programmes, but please do use the chat function to let us know about that. So whilst you all get your thinking caps on for questions, I've got one to kick off for all 3 of you. I'm going to start with you, Simon, if that's okay. And if I was to ask you, what does success look like for your programme? What would you tell me?
Oh, starting with the easy questions. Yeah. Well, in one sense, I've always really been keen that Future Focus Finance is a mass movement of enthusiasts who want to sign up to be positive. So success in that easily measurable sense is, for me, is how many people are involved. And I don't put a target on that, other than it would be great if every person who works in NHS Finance felt that they wanted to be a value maker and signed up. Yeah, so that's on that side. I think another way of thinking about it is that, we're trying to create a community of colleagues, enthusiastic colleagues who are supporting each other to do the best for the NHS and for patients. And a measure of that is how well we're doing in the staff survey and the various measures on that. So I have to say, we stand out, as finance function stands out really well in the NHS staff survey, but there's always even better, isn't there? So I think those are 2 measures for me, that sort of level of engagement, however we measure it, and what the impact, the KPI for that is the staff survey.
Thanks for that, Simon. And same question to you, Jenny.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for making Simon go first, to be honest.
I know, you can think.
So I guess, in some ways it's fairly, you can really measure some of the things that we're doing that are sort of quite hard measures. So, continuing to see innovations come through, and making sure that those reflect the whole of the NHS in England. I'm more broadly, if others want to join in, obviously. And that we see that they're well used. So, not only that they're submitted, but that actually we can measure how many times each innovation is clicked through, and so we can see how many people are reading them. But it'd be great to then get some feedback that says, actually, I've implemented it and it's saved time. And on that saving time piece, that we and how we measure this one, I'm much less sure of, but that we do release that time back to the value adding, and allowing local organisations to, that the automation of PFRs, and it'll be 1 or 2 individuals in a team, but actually being able to say, look, those people have got, a couple of hours back perhaps each month, and that time can be used locally and really, help to ultimately, as I say, to deliver, better patient care across our organisations. That one's obviously much more difficult to measure than how many innovations we get. And I guess if I may have a third one, then how many problems are put forward, and that we start to see that we are developing some of those solutions and sharing those. And again, that those are things that can be easily used across the whole, or apply to lots of providers and ICSs and ICBs in the future. So.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Jenny. I mean, there's such a link, isn't there, between what Simon has just said in terms of the staff survey and how our staff are feeling, and what you've just described. So if we can get some innovations that really do impact on teams and people feel the difference as a consequence, I think we'd be really keen to hear that. So it might not be an innovation that you've put forward within your team, but if you've benefited from somebody else's, and you can see that in the team, and that impacts on how tired our staff have felt over the last 12 months, or how busy it can feel at work, then that is just a great success across both of those programmes. So Hardev, I'm going to come to you next.
Yeah, thanks for that. I could just say agree with that and that's it. But no, I'm going to be a bit more descriptive. So I think from a finance academy, we've always said for us, we want to make sure that the finance function reflects the community we serve at every level. And that to me is really the goal that we're aiming for. I think as a subset on that, I would say if we can sit here in a year's time and you don't have people like me who keep talking about their career and why they found it so, the challenges that they had to go through to get here, that people will say that's history. We don't hear about that. We hear about people succeeding. We hear about people who are adding value to the finance function. We talk about how finance is helping to reduce health inequality. We talk about how finance is helping to deliver on the sustainability agenda. And we talk about the innovations, how we're doing. So all those bits, I think, is a cultural shift. And I think the Finance Academy will do well to nurture that culture by focusing on the talent that we have got and are bringing through as well. So for me, I think it's about taking away all of those barriers and making sure that we do reflect the population we serve at every level.
Thanks, Hardev, and I think we should come back to what you've just said when we do this in 12 months' time, and let's see how far we feel we've come. I'm going to stick with you if that's okay, Hardev, because I've got a question in from Carol, and she's asking to yourself, in terms of the Insights programme, how do you get young people involved in this?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and I'm hoping you saw on the slide there's a little note that said it's a pilot. So we're testing this out at the moment. So what I would say, Carol, is if you can reach out to One NHS Finance, and if you're interested, you can help shape how we get young people onto the programme. At the moment, there is a working group being set up to help design that. And one of the things that we're looking at is how we engage, particularly with the charity, for them to advise us on how we would go about bringing those people forward, and what we call the pastoral support that would surround them going forward, so it's done in the right way. But we are leaning quite a lot on these organisations that work much more closely with the young people, with those communities, to really make sure that we're striking the right tone in terms of placements for people from disadvantaged backgrounds. But please, it's a pilot, so it's there to be modified. And if Carol or anyone else wants to get involved in that, then please reach out to One NHS Finance.
Thanks, Hardev, and thanks, Carol, for your question. I'm going to come to Simon for the next one. So Chris has put a comment in around the staff survey results and how that's shared. I just wondered if you wanted to share some of the work that the FFF group has been doing in relation to staff survey results.
Yeah, thanks, Suzanne. So we can access the staff survey results for finance teams where the finance teams are separately identified in the organisation survey. So, and that is not always the case. So, but the number has gone up. So I think there's, if I remember correctly, 160 organisations that we can see in separately now. So first thing is encourage, if your team is not split out, and for very small teams you're not allowed to do it, but for most finance teams it should be big enough for them to be split out. Then please do encourage your finance director, or if you're a finance director, encourage yourself to get that split out for next time. Then we have got those individual organisations that where we've got the results. We've been looking at them with a working group of enthusiasts from the national from around the country, and we're going to be producing a sort of resource pack to help people with their staff survey, and also appropriately allowing people to see where they sit against everybody else. So we are doing that. I'm really excited about that, because I think it's really at the core of it's not like, oh, we must get the staff survey results up, or you send out an email ordering everybody to be a bit happier. and to put good results. But if you think about all the things around engagement, leadership, purpose for teams, that all eventually comes out in how your team is feeling. So if we get those things right, the staff survey will improve. And again, it's pretty good. It stands out well against other surveys within the NHS, but it can always get better. Yeah, cheers.
Thanks, Simon, and thanks, Chris, for your question. So I'm going to come to Daryl. Hi, Daryl. Have you got a question for the panel?
It was just a comment, actually, because we've done some analysis on the NHS staff survey ourselves, but what we discovered was our HR colleagues had not quite identified our teams in the way in which we would have liked to see it, and then we discovered that it wasn't quite set out right for the whole of the organisation. So now we're taking a lead role in getting it organised so that our data is more helpful to the whole organisation. So just a word of caution for those people that have got their finance department identified. It might be worth checking that it is truly picking up your team and in the way in which you want to see that information presented to you.
Thanks for that, Daryl. I think Simon wants to come back to you.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Daryl. And I think that you've done the first step there of actually looking at it. Do you see what I mean? So that I think that's part of what we want to encourage is that colleagues are really looking at their results, getting them presenting, ironing out any data quality issues, but importantly then seeing what the results are saying and listening to staff and all the other ways that you can listen to staff as well. We encourage. Yeah, thanks.
That's great. Thanks both. So I've got a question for Jenny now. Jenny, have there been any innovations that have been submitted to your programme so far that really excite you for future developments in NHS Finance?
Oh, that's a brilliant question. Crikey. There's 34, so I'm going to feel a bit mean if I single one out. I mean, there's something, and this will be, obviously, I did mention it whilst I was talking in the presentation, but there's something that Simon brought to Leeds, and then I've subsequently brought to Manchester. And I think, I'm dead happy to. I'm a better, how do you say? I'm a better thief than inventor. So, this whole innovation program absolutely suits me down to the ground. But that's the day one reporting, because I think genuinely we make a bigger difference to patient care by looking forward than by looking backwards. And so actually getting the results out on day one and then moving on and making the changes, I think is any changes necessary as a result of those results, is really important. And we've had, I think, 3 now day one innovations come through. And from a range of different organisations, and different organisations using different systems, including using SBS. So I think for me, what that shows is that we can report more quickly without loss of accuracy, and that that then that does make a difference to patient care, and so it is. I've copped out slightly because it was something that's gone on for longer than the Innovation Forum. But in terms of sort of duplicated innovations, I think it's probably the biggest one. Yeah. But there's so much good stuff in there. I just encourage people to go and have a look, because there'll be things that you kind of don't know that you don't know, so that some of those innovations are kind of, oh crikey, we could adopt that even though we didn't think we had a problem. There's something that would make it even better. So please go on the website and have a look, I would say.
Thanks, Jenny, and I totally agree with you. I'm the biggest supporter of plagiarism there is. And so I'm going to do another plug now, because we are always looking for people to be assessors for the accreditation programme, and I've learnt so much in the last 10 years that I've been doing that, and I've nicked an idea from literally every organisation I've assessed and brought it to wherever I'm working. So massive advocate of doing that. So I've got another question here, which is for all of you, and it's something that Hardev picked up in your opening, your opening words. So you referenced how equality, diversity, inclusion is a thread throughout each of the programmes. So if each of you could just say a little bit more about how do you see EDI running through your programme? So Hardev, will come from you. Is how do you see the link, and then I'll reflect back with Simon and then Jenny.
Yeah, thank you for that. So clearly this was something when we were looking at the survey responses, it was quite clear this was something that needed to be addressed. And I know you're talking to Julian, he was felt very strongly that this needed to be a common theme as well. So this is something that we're all very passionate about, to make sure it's captured in the right way. But we want to move to a point where we don't have to keep mentioning it. It happens much more organically, that people see this as the way we work and the way we operate within finance. Certainly when we look at the programs that we have on offer in the academy, we now do measure uptake by a variety of measures, including what level people are at, what region they're from, any characteristics we're able to measure, and we're able to then understand how inclusive are our programs, and if there are things that we need to address. We obviously have the steering group from Jeff Buggle that's going to be looking at this more specifically, and that's also building on the work from the sponsorship program, which again is meant to be targeting those individuals who probably didn't feel as included, but have heaps of talent, and supporting them in getting through their career, and promoting them and supporting them, sponsoring them going forward. And then when we talk about the talent management, we frame this in a way that's called inclusive talent management. So this is about actually recognizing that we do have a wealth of talent there, and sometimes we don't ask the right questions to bring that talent to the front. And we've got to really address some of these issues to allow a bigger cohort of people to rise through the ranks in finance, and that means changing the way we look at talent. So I'm hoping through the work that Jeff Buggle and his group are going to be doing, and through the National Finance Academy, the whole agenda around EDI will be central in everything we do, and people will be able to see that as they see the changing face of finance, which I think over the last year I've certainly noticed that difference as well. So we're making good inroads, and long may that continue.
Thanks for that, Hardev. Simon.
Well, thanks, Hardev. Thanks, Suzanne. Well, yeah, really important. And I was just thinking, because I've had a little bit of time to think. So while Hardev was speaking there, I mean, we have got, we have diversity and inclusion ambassadors. Yeah, so that's our contribution. Well, that is a big contribution for Future Focused Finance. But if you think more about it, Future Focused Finance is about getting everybody involved and supporting your colleagues. So I think that's inherent diversity and inclusion there. And then I think about some examples of how things that value makers have been doing recently. So I was very delighted to be at our North Eastern Yorkshire Value Maker Conference yesterday, and we had a wonderful session there by, I think it's a lady called Lynn from one of the North East organisations, and she ran a live privilege survey which we all engaged in, and then we thought about afterwards. So that's a value maker, thinking that's something important, want to do at our value maker conference. I'm just going to hold this little book we've got here in Leeds, which is Amplifying Voices, Mending Divides, which is a book written by a number of our staff and of their experiences of inequality and racism in our organisation. And it's intended to, motivate and shock us to want to do something. So I was delighted when our value makers wanted to have a reading of that in our time out, for instance. And then we all reflected on, we got one of the people who wrote one of the chapters to come along, and we all reflected on that. So that sort of mass movement of enthusiasts, they're working away in that supportive fashion on equality and diversity, I think is the big thing that we're doing. Yeah.
Thanks, Simon. And before I bring Jenny in, Carol's asked for a name of your book, if you're willing to share again.
Available
it
in
is,
all
Danny.
good bookshops, Amplifying Voices and Mending Divides. I'll
We'll
get
chuck it in the chat.
Yeah.
Phil, thanks. And Jenny.
Yeah, thank you. So I think there's probably a couple of things. One is the peer review, and I didn't say this earlier, so it may not be obvious. The peer review is anonymous, and therefore, you know, the sort of trying to make sure that there isn't any bias in that review process. So that's, you know, a sort of a part of what I think we do. And then I think the other piece for me is in the software skills development for finance staff, because we've tried to make that, you know, it's online, it's sort of available to all. Just trying to make sure that we, you know, that offer is open, if you like. I think we, and again, similar to what Hardev was saying, you know, measuring access and making sure we are, you know, making sure that it is being used by all as well as being available to all. And I think that's really important. So I think what we have sort of gleaned, if you like, is sometimes people have felt that they couldn't innovate because they were too junior. You know, the hierarchy said, "Oh, don't try," kind of thing. And I think we've got to see One NHS Finance as a whole, in each of us, you know, sort of interlinking to address the ED&I challenge that we absolutely do have, and therefore the sort of the mass movement that Simon describes and all the work that Hardev describes obviously links across with the kind of the innovation piece and allowing people to feel that actually they've got great ideas, and therefore we try and amplify those voices. So
That's brilliant. Thanks. And just want to say another huge thank you to each of our panel members for not only giving us an update on what they've been doing and what they've got plans for within each of their programmes of work, but also for taking all of those questions which I've just thrown at you and for thinking very quickly and coming up with some brilliant answers for them. So thanks. A huge thank you for everybody that's joined us this afternoon as well. I know it's a Friday afternoon and we'll all be getting ready for what hopefully looks like it's going to be a really nice sunny weekend. And thank you again to the One NHS Finance team, because they do so much work behind the scenes. We get wheeled out from time to time to do things, but I don't want to take a lot of the credit for what they do to support the whole programme. So thank you to them. As I mentioned at the start, we have recorded this session, and I think Richard just popped it in the chat. Actually, we will be pinging it out to everybody who's on this call. So if your colleagues weren't able to attend, please encourage them to go and have a watch, have a listen, download the One NHS Finance annual report if you could. And then last plug I promised before I let everybody go is just to subscribe to the One NHS Finance newsletter. We've got a great subscription list, but it's just such a good resource. We've talked about some of the things today that are available across each of the programmes, but there is so much more behind the programme. So please sign up to the newsletter, get it shared in your weekly or monthly newsletters across your whole of your teams, and let's try and get as many people getting the benefits of this whole programme as possible. So just a huge thank you again, and thanks everybody, and have a wonderful weekend, and I'm sure we'll see you all soon.
Thanks everybody.